Hello. I'm just going to start this by saying that I got home from a long work trip to the US yesterday, and the jet lag is really kicking in now. So this is going to be a bit of an adventure for both of us. I did not write this on the plane. Okay, so no intro slide. Good start. I'm Daniel. You know me. We've been introduced before. We don't need an intro slide. So here is an app. This is my app. And damn, that's a sweet app, you might say. But no, you'd be wrong. Have you ever opened an app and gone, ugh? Maybe after the iOS 18 update and you open Mail. Ugh, half my emails have gone. Or an app you use every day has an update. You open it. Ugh, an AI feature. Cool. So users don't really give two craps about our apps. They care about this, which is their stuff. They care about their stuff. They don't care about apps. They care about their stuff. And they care about what they want to do with their stuff. So, picture this, if you will. It's 1992. Boys to Men is taking the charts by storm. You are 7 years old. That's me. Bit too windy, there we go. And your family just bought a Macintosh LC2. It's a Mac, it has 4 megabytes of RAM, it runs at 40 megahertz, I think. It's the state-of-the-art machine. One of the first things you do when you boot up your Macintosh LC2 in 1992 is go through a thing called Mouse Basics. And it teaches you how to use the mouse. That character is called Tim. And they literally teach you the mouse by having you point at things on an actual desk, and then you drag files into a filing cabinet with folders in it. The next step after this is dragging a file off a figurative picture of a desk into the trash there. And back then, when computers were good, there was no AI. Computers went real hard on this desktop metaphor. And part of that was, it was content first. All of your content, all of it was a file. And there was an icon for the file on your disk somewhere, and you manually made folders, and you'd like, here's my homework folder. You put all your stuff in it, and you organized it, and it was all yours. And then you double click on the thing you wanted to work on, and the app that was currently configured to work with that file would open. You know, you all know how computers work. And now, the thing is with this kind of organization is you quite often ended up with this. I mean, I know where everything is. This is perfectly fine. Thank you. But still, it was user content first. And that also jet lag kicked in. All right, so that also was the case for tasks. So in 1992, System 7 shipped with a thing called AppleScript, and that was like a user-focused scripting language that was built into the operating system. And it had, the developer documentation was wonderful. This is actually a screenshot from the developer documentation. You can still get it. So if you look at a documentation UI from Apple and it says archive in it, that means it's good. This is actually from the Apple events documentation. It doesn't matter, but this is what we were doing. And AppleScript is still a sort of human-ish focused language for automating your Mac. And it worked by applications would add sort of things into it via a thing called a suite, and then apps could be automated. And the whole point was, you could get text from here and a document from there, or a picture from here, and you could put it in a thing over here, it linked it all together. AppleScript does still exist. Apple hasn't touched it for years, but it still works and it's still native, and I think it's one of the oldest surviving Apple technologies. So it's gone 68K, PowerPC, Intel, and now to ARM. And if you open Script Editor on your Mac right now, and go open dictionary from the file menu, it will give you a list of all of the apps that are scriptable. spoiler, mine. Adobe, really hot on their scripting as well. A lot of Apple apps are scriptable too. Just to give you an idea of like what kind of level this is. So this is the documentation for this is what you'll see after you choose an app in that previous thing. Pages lets you sort of access down to the word and then the character. So you can script through a document down to individual words and characters and manipulate them. Adobe go real hard on the scriptable thing. Back in when AppleScript was at its peak, in entire industries, especially the publishing industry, ran on AppleScript. So a suite here, I guess, is kind of like an SDK framework sort of thing. This, like InDesign, which is a page layout thing you use to make magazines and stuff, has that different suites for UI, text, tables, you know, stroke styles, links. Like it's just bonkers detailed. And this is all user accessible. It's very popular, so a user could like build their own features basically with AppleScript. Nowadays, things are a little bit different. So back then, everything was user first, like content first. Everything was just in a big pile on your disk. And you could link everything together. Nowadays, with cloud services and iOS sandboxing, Zoom has docs now, I found out today. Cool. This is kind of inverted. All of the user's content is kind of sequestered away into these individual separate bubbles. So you've got your Google bubble and your Zoom bubble and the Keynote sandbox. Although Keynote is actually pretty good at kind of escaping that. And in some cases, your stuff isn't yours. Like a lot of services, if you upload to them, if you look at the EULA, you give up rights to ownership when you upload them, which is bad. So this old AppleScript kind of way is really cool, but it's not that compatible as such with the modern kind of way of doing things in Apple land. You still can do AppleScript in and out of sandboxed applications, but it's not very modern. It's, you know, you saw the documentation before. You know, when you see a diagram like that, so the modern technology for that Apple is currently pushing is called App Intent. And the current sales pitch that Apple will sell you for App Intents is that it will expose your app to Siri and Apple Intelligence, and that will allow the system to kind of expose your content to like out of your bubble, your app's bubble, you know, to the rest of the system. And this does kind of actually follow the content first thing that Macs have had since forever. But just like AppleScript, it's an OS level sort of machine for exposing the content and tasks to the system and to the user. So the key for that particular part is the Shortcuts app. And the Shortcuts app on iOS as well, which is super cool, it's not just limited to the Mac anymore, is how the user combines, gets at their stuff and builds the tasks they want to do. So I'm actually just going to give you an example of why this is cool. We'll kind of jump to the end for a second. So, as you saw earlier, my app works with photos. And let's say I'm a photographer and my boss is like, right, every day you've done your photo shoot, you got some photos, I want an email with all of the photos that the clients have picked as their favorite shots, right? Just as like a, corporate bookkeeping kind of thing. So email, you get that email from the user saying, hey, my boss wants me to do this. Can you build it into your app? And for email, your brain would probably think, oh, well, the user can just select some images, use the share sheet. Cool, no problem. Then they're like, oh, well, actually, no, my boss wants a PDF that he can print out, because he's from the 90s, with all the thumbnails of all the sort of picked pictures and with like the name of it and the date stamp and stuff so they can refer to it. Later, they can archive it. And you're like, oh, okay, PDF. So you need to, right, so we need like some kind of PDF renderer. No. Bam, shortcuts. So This is an example shortcut that I did yesterday, and I didn't get to pages. But this shortcut, my app works with like system cameras like Harold has here, like Canon, Nikon things, rather than the built-in library. Will connect to a camera. It will get all of the images from the camera that were taken today that's been rated well, they're raw images. We'll have the newest ones first, please, and we don't want to email more than 20 because that would be crazy. We want to get some small previews to it, and then we want to email them to the boss. Cool, okay. This screenshot is on the Mac. This works on the iOS as well, on the iPhone. And you know that button here that we got a 20-minute sales pitch on, and we push once, and then never used again? You can attach that to this. Plug the camera in, push the button, bam, email to the boss. 10 seconds. And this is kind of where it gets brilliant, because at this point, instead of trying to figure all that out, and this is 3 things that this app has exposed to the shortcut system. The user can build their own features in a way. And it's on the iPhone as well. iPad, anything, probably the Vision Pro. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, okay, cool, all right, so this kind of looks like an API. And we've got like tons of APIs in our app. We could just like expose them out to the app intent system. It will be easy and awesome. Heck yeah. However, let me go through how that works in my app. So, we want to connect to a camera and get a thumbnail. Easy, cool. Okay, so we talk to the camera discovery object, that has an API, and we ask it to discover cameras, and we get a disconnected camera back. It found one. Cool, okay, we need to ask for permissions to talk to the network or over USB. Okay, cool. Now we need to go to the keychain to get the saved credential to connect to the camera. Yes, now we have a connected camera. Awesome. Okay, the camera has storage. It has multiple storages, actually. Cool, but then we get a folder. Well, there's loads of folders in the camera. It's really hierarchical. Cool, but then we get images. Yeah, okay, a file. Tons of those. Right, but then getting thumbnails from the camera is quite an expensive operation. So we have a RAM cache, so we don't have to keep doing that. Not on the RAM cache yet. Oh, but we have a disk cache. So let's check the disk cache. No, not in there yet. Okay, so we've got to go and actually fetch the thumbnail from the camera. Cool, okay, RAM cache again, because we've got to put it in the cache and on disk. Hooray, thumbnail, cool. Now, exposing that process through app intents and shortcuts would be insanity. So actually exposing your APIs as they exist is unlikely to be the way to go. What the user sees is they have a button in the app called Reconnect, and they click the button, and then they see a button that says Photos, and they click the button, and then they see their photos. Now all that other stuff is happening underneath in the background, but the user is like, connect, photos, heck yeah. So when you're automating like this, when you're using the app intent system, you want to kind of expose what the user sees and not what they can't. Like this, all that crap that was happening in the background isn't really relevant to the task they're doing, and we might change it. And we don't want to break all of their automations when they do that. So, okay, all right. So, right, how do we do this? So, I'm not sure if you're aware of there are 100 different words for things like this. Coupling diagrams, class diagrams. This is just, there's a really old thing called GCD web server written in Objective-C for doing HTTP requests. And it's just like, okay, there's a class called web server and it uses a data request. It's just kind of a diagram of how, the parts of the app click together. So 8-hour flight over the weekend, bored on the 8-hour flight. So I was like, I know, I will painstakingly go through my app. It's 10 years old. It's a medium app. It's a couple of 100,000 lines long. And do just a diagram so you can kind of see what you might be working with in a real app. So here it is. So 10 years, There's only a little murmur, so I think there's too many ooh, that looks a bit too familiar to me in there. So how do we get this out to the app intent system? Because being a a method of exposing actions and data to a universal system, it's quite opinionated on how that is sort of architectured, and it has to be because of the nature of the beast. So what you do is you don't. Instead, you make a new component in your app. Now, the way you actually do it isn't important here. My app uses, we call it the feature system. I don't know if it's a real thing, maybe, I don't know. It's kind of a form of a dependency injection, like each feature in the app can opt to vend an API to other parts of the app, and dependency injection can get at them. It doesn't matter how you do it, but we have a feature here called automation support. I've called it, again, it doesn't matter. And this thing's job is to make sense of all that chaos and then vend something that does connect to camera, fetch thumbnails. So the thing is here, I've built automation support, which is in my app 2,000 lines of code. It's quite a lot. And then on top of that is intents, which it's reasonably boilerplatey intents is, because it... Damn, all right. I'm sorry, intents is great. It is not boilerplatey. But the intents that, like, I don't know if you saw in the previous screenshot, but there were like 15 or so actions out to intents. That's 1,000 lines. And like, well, if I just kind of squish these together and just built intents, it'd probably be somewhere in the middle. So why go to the extra effort doing this? I mean, sure, right? I have a Mac app as well. Let's just wang some AppleScript in there. Cool. All right. So, but still, like, we can now automate with intents and AppleScript, and it's really cool. You can build those features that I mentioned before. But if we go back to what I said before, we're exposing what the user can see and interact with, not what they can't. So in a way, like if you squint and kind of go with me, this is kind of a form of simplified user interface. It's not clickable. Oh no! Oh no! That was weird. It's kind of a simplified form of user interface. So the user can't actually directly interact with it because it's code, but we are effectively exposing our user interface in a code kind of manner. So what else can we do? Ever heard of a Stream Deck? It's like a thing with buttons. Heck yeah, a Stream Deck is a simplified user interface. The Stream Deck has an iPad SDK and a Mac one. Obviously, I mean, for my customer base, this is really good because you can turn the dials to change camera settings, yada, yada. Maybe for Blocket, you turn the dial to increase the price, I don't know. But, like, still, I built this in 900 lines of code, just using that. It's just kind of exposing that through there. What else? What else is a simplified user interface? Maybe an Apple Watch app. Whoops. Maybe an Apple Watch app. I haven't built it yet, but it's probably going to be quite a lot of lines of code because Bluetooth, yada, yada. But this is a perfect, and this is kind of how I started it, this is a perfect way to build an Apple Watch app because it's a simplified way into the app, which in Apple, you can't put like that app on here. And as the app itself sort of, evolves and changes over time, this will be maintained to still work. And then all these, including the Apple Watch, will kind of continue working, right? So suddenly this becomes a bit less of an ask. Because this is a form of simplified user interface. And built correctly, it can be used for many, many things. So, in today's sort of product-like world where we need to like move fast and like we've got to hit some, DAU target by X time, otherwise startup stuff, I don't know. Building this kind of thing out just for one feature like AppleScript or app intents is kind of a hard sell. Because an app intent, just to say to Siri, hey, you can take a picture now, is really easy. But this kind of more detailed thing where you have to expose your internal, images and with a camera case, the image doesn't exist on the device, it's on a camera. So we kind of, that's quite a bit more involved. But when we can suddenly use most of the work for this for many other things, I mean, a simplified user interface could also be used for, various forms of UI testing, for instance. It's suddenly a much easier ask. So the third time, this is the most important thing for intents, is you are providing an API for what the user can see, so then the user can interact in a way they're familiar with, but that's not literally clicking the buttons inside your app. And if you do this well, you will hopefully reunite the user with their stuff and their tasks in the way that they desire. Thank you. I did do an intro slide. Thank you. Any questions? No, damn it. All right, Anton. Hang on. No link. Yes, link. That's probably, I shouldn't have done that.
Thanks for a great talk.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed the photo of me when I was 7 holding a cuddly killer whale, if you didn't notice that.
The Australia kangaroo shirt.
Oh, yeah. You take your cuddly killer whale to Australia. Yeah. Actually, that's a much better slide than this one. Hang on. There we go. We can all look at this for a while. Oh, wow, this is a lot of slides. There we go. Cool. Oh, no, it's a dog. It's not a killer whale. That's a different photo. Never mind. Carry on. Sorry, you had a question. Jet lag.
If I can remember it. I was wondering, do you have a favorite shortcut that you use often, and what is it?
Oh, on my app or in general?
In general. I mean, you could go with both. But.
Sure. In my app, you should buy it and find... No. So my iPad I use... not every day, but often enough that it's annoying that I come to it and the battery's dead. So I've made a shortcut that will add a reminder to my reminders for right now that says charge the iPad, and it triggers when the battery goes lower than 20%. So then that will sync through iCloud and pop up on my phone, and it says charge iPad. I'm like, oh, I should charge my iPad. And then I have another one that clears all reminders that are called charge iPad when you plug it in. So as soon as you plug the iPad in, it just goes away. So that's pretty cool. Shortcuts is really cool. Like it's I call it a halo feature. Like it's not a feature that's ever going to be used by a ton of your apps in that manner, but the people that use it are going to frickin' love it, and they're going to tell everybody about it. Yeah. Cool. Any more questions? Yes. Where did the microphone go?
Yeah, really cool stuff. Do you also expose these intents through to Siri shortcuts?
Yeah, not all of them, but no, this isn't the time for Xcode. Yeah, there are like Connect. One thing that's really nice about these is the intent system. The system kind of picks it up everywhere. So I did literally nothing, and then I could say, I'm not going to say it. Ahoy telephone. There we go. Ahoy telephone. Connect to my camera. And it'll go, oh, do you want to connect via USB or Wi-Fi? I'll go, USB, please. And then it'll connect. And I didn't actually do anything to get that other than build the intent for shortcuts. So you can explicitly tell the system, these are particularly good for Siri. And for those, I've done connect to camera, disconnect to camera, and rate images, I think. Like you can apply ratings to photos. Thank you. Any more? Cool. Okay. So my laptop doesn't have the closing slide on it. So thank you very much. I'm Daniel. This is also Daniel from 1992. Oh, so long ago. Thank you for coming. I believe we can stay here till 9. Yes, 9 o'clock. Yeah, I've been Daniel. The other, all the CocoaHeads folks here are really glad to have you here. Thank you for coming. Leave us a review, like, comment, subscribe. I don't know. Have a great evening. I think there are a few drinks left. And yeah, cheers.